Welcome to The Good Pod, where today we're talking about Elsbeth, Season 2, Episode 5, Elsbeth Flips the Bird. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Reed. With me, as always, the head chef in any podcast we do, Marissa Garza. Marissa, you good?
I'm good. I hope I'm like the nice one though. Like I don't feel like I have Carmi energy.
No.
I don't feel like I have Chef Aviv energy, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, listen, I try and sous chef. I try and stay out of the way as best I can, not to piss you off. I mop the floors. I don't make any weird reservations I shouldn't. We are here. We're in Elsbeth, Season 2, 5th episode in. Overall thoughts about this episode, Marissa. What do you got?
Okay, I know we said this last week. Like, it was okay. We're getting towards the not okay situation here. It's kind of, this was like one of the most bland episodes, I think, which is interesting because it was about a restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, it was really just like, okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the it's fine category right now for this. Like it did what it was. It did what it was supposed to do, but we've seen much better Elsbeth episodes. I think the ending really kind of fizzled for me because there wasn't anything like overtly fun or theatric in how the case was solved and how the murderer was busted. It was just like they just came in and arrested her. It was just like, hey, we did this.
Well,
like,
Elsbeth did do a dramatic reenactment.
Yes, yeah, that was fun. But it was just like it wasn't as inventive as I feel like other episodes have been. It really feels like we were thrown a lot. A lot was thrown at us in this episode. We went through many different avenues and tangents, and it was all just kind of put together. So we'll talk about it, but not the best Ellsworth we've seen. But still, any Ellsworth episode is fun. We'll say that.
Yeah. And I mean, like in today's day and age, we need fun.
That's what we need. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of episode 5, we want to remind you of some easy and free ways you can help this podcast. No matter where you're listening or watching, there's a way to help us get more viewers, help us get into the eyes and ears for more people. And that's through rating, subscribing, and leaving us reviews. If you're on Apple, you can leave us a written review. And we do have a review that we got recently to tell you guys about. It was a great review. It's from I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm going to spell it out. Sihrooov is the author of this review. The title is As Fun as Elsbeth. If you enjoy the quirky, fun show of Elsbeth, you will enjoy listening to these podcasts recapping each show. You can see them hanging out with the characters of the show, and the banter is witty and humorous. Join the fun. When I read this review, I was like, what would it be like for me and Marissa to hang out with Elsbeth, Kaya, and Wagner? I think
I am like the Elsbeth and you're like the Kaya. Like you'd be like so chill and I'd be like, oh no.
Yeah, you and Ellsworth would be like over in a corner. Like you guys would be like a quirky off. Like you guys are like, who's more quirky? And then me and Wagner would be hanging out, chilling,
Yes.
And then I'd be just like, I'd be trying to get Kaya in on the conversation. Like, come on, Kaya, like come over. Like I like Kaya's cool. Like me and Kaya can hang out, I think, me as well. Yeah. Wagner would be like, you two are just too much for me. I'm gonna go over here and do something else. I'll see you later.
You and Kaya, you can talk to Kaya. She's like, I know what it's like to work with an Elspeth. Like,
yeah,
really. Like,
it's okay. Me and Kaya could chop it up about TV, possibly. Like she seems like a big TV head.
Talk about the lavish ladies.
Yeah, exactly. So we'd probably bond on like 90 Day Fiance. She seems like she watches those like trashy shows as well. So I think that'd be a lot of fun. But C. Roof, thank you so much for the review. We really appreciate it. So if you want us to read your review, leave it. If you leave a 5-star review, we will read it on the show. But yeah, there's millions of ways. Millions, like there's like 4 ways you can help us out. You can rate, review, subscribe, no matter where you are, no matter where you're listening. Help us out with that way.
Also share, like if you want to share with someone, they're like, hey, I know you watch the show. There's a podcast about it. We'd love to, for you to tell them about us. Did
you already leave a review? Grab your significant others or your kids' phones. Leave another one. We won't tell anyone. But yeah, we would really appreciate if you guys could help us out in that way.
Yes.
Let's dig into the episode.
Well, wait, Jason, I remember last week you told me we got a special message from Katherine following up on last week's episode.
Yeah, last week. I'm like, Mutt and Jeff. Who has heard of Mutt and Jeff? Hit me up if you've heard of Mutt and Jeff. Well, Katherine hit me up Katherine, who is a big Rob Has Podcast patron, very well known in the Rob Has Podcast streets. She's always very supportive. She's always been supportive of the shows that I've done. Love Katherine. She's great. She messaged me and was like, messaged me and said, I know who
Yeah.
Mutt and Jeff are. I'm aware. It's like, yeah, but Katherine, like, come on. I know you know. World. And then I had a thought. I said, maybe, just maybe, Mutt and Jeff, they're trying to like put Mutt and Jeff in our consciousness to like make us like a spin-off show, make like a make a Mutt and Jeff show. So they're trying to get Mutt and Jeff in our consciousness to be like, you
No.
know who Mutt and Jeff are. So now Mutt and Jeff are going to be like a procedural show. It's going to be two detectives named Mutt and Jeff. Or
Oh
I don't know.
no.
I was like, why else will they throw this obscure reference at us that only Katherine knows? To be like, here's Mutt and Jeff. They're now grizzly detectives they're probably two hot detectives or something. And, Mutt has the
Obviously.
name because of whatever. I don't know. But Katherine, thank you so much for getting into contact and be like, you said no one knew, but I know.
Katherine knows. Katherine
Katherine
knows.
knows.
If anyone knows, Katherine's gonna know.
Katherine and her dog Flash Gordon, they know.
Ah,
Yeah,
they
Flash
know
Gordon
things.
is a big celebrity in the Raw Past podcast streets. So yeah, thank you so much, Katherine, for reaching out. We love to hear from anyone that that wants to prove us wrong.
Yeah. Yes. It's always fun. All right. I think it is time to dive in to the case of to the everything of the week.
Yeah.
We're just going to take it from top to bottom. So, this episode centers around Chef Aviv, who I spent the entire time asking myself, is that Janine Garofalo? Like, is that Janine Garofalo? I don't. It could be Janine Garofalo. Newsflash: it was not Janine
Was
Garofalo,
not.
but they were really going for those vibes.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see where you got that from because Jeanine Garofalo and Pamela Adlon do share like a lot in common. They're like short, dark-haired women that have sassy
Well, the
attitudes.
glasses
Yeah,
and the tattoos and
yeah.
like everything. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but this is Pamela Adlon, who she's been around the block. It's a very good show called Better Things. If you ever have time to check out that show, it's a very
Mm.
good show called Better Things. She's like a single mom doing single mom stuff. She's also, believe it or not, the voice of Bobby Hill from King of the Hill,
The
from
king
that
that
show.
he is.
Yeah. So yeah, like Pamela Adlon's been around these streets. I would say she's a good level of celebrity to be our murderer this go
That
around.
makes much more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, Janine Garofalo's a big get. What is she doing? Why is she here? What's going on? Like the whole time I'm watching this episode
I
and
don't
I didn't Google it.
I don't know if I've heard the name Janine Garofalo in quite a long time.
Yeah.
Ever since
She's
I feel like she's a big part of the I Love the '90s on VH1. I feel like she was a big talking head on that. And for some reason, I get the title "Must Love Cats and Dogs." But
the truth about
oh,
cats and dogs.
yeah,
Okay.
there you
It
go.
was about podcasters. They had a radio show.
Oh, that's
It
maybe
was
why I knew that.
and it was Uma Thurman and yeah, it was good. It's a good rom-com. It's probably a good one to watch these days. I should probably cue it up. But that was that was my confusion. But thanks to Pamela Adlon for portraying Chef Aviv here. This I feel like I love a good like popular culture shout out, but they were really trying to like do their own version of the bear in
Yes.
the beginning of the episode. And as someone who has watched the bear multiple times, Jason, I know you have watched the bear with me. And so what was your take? Do you feel like they were reaching too hard, too far, or how do you think this landed?
I feel like they didn't go far enough, right? I feel like we need to really get into a character study of Chef Veev. She needs to kind of be
Yeah.
she should be in a locked in freezer, staring into space, thinking about her past and her tortured history with mentor chefs as Carmi
Yeah.
does on The Bear. And listen, just a random plug. If you hadn't heard our The Bear coverage from
Yes.
the latest season, go to World One Podcast and look that up. We did cover the last season of The Bear, had a bunch of fun doing that. So yeah, this is a very kind of like flashbacks to Carmi and The Bear with the tortured head chef with a bunch of tattoos that is scarred from PTSD from her trauma surrounding her mentor chef. So yes, it was very kind of Carmi coded.
At the opening of this episode, they're very like they're doing the whole like front of house meeting thing. Chef Eve has very high standards. There's a very important VIP coming in, sitting at table 12. They make sure that we know that as the audience. They also make sure that we know about Jordan, this chef who is like not paying attention and isn't counting the lamb shanks, Jason. Not
You always gotta count the
counting
lamb
the
shank.
lamb shanks.
I know there are 6 lamb shanks upstairs in my freezer right now. I always keep that. I keep it on the pad on my refrigerator. There's 6 lamb shanks in the freezer
Oh,
right now. Yeah.
I have 0, so
Oh,
I might have to borrow some.
yeah. I'll pack some in dry ice and send it over to
Yeah,
Chicago for
send
you.
them on over. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, so we get the sense that like something's up with Jordan throughout the night. It does turn out that table 12 gets lost to the VIP who is supposed to be there because there's a bunch of influencers there and there's people taking questions. There's a big backup at the front. So we find out that basically this was Jordan's doing because he was selling reservations to the restaurant, which is not something that is allowed. Chef Aviv does not approve. She does not like it.
Yeah, so Jordan ended up double booking a bunch of reservations. That's why people that come in for the reservations already been taken. Much to the dismay of several tidy patrons that are upset because they can't get the reservation, including someone named Mr. Montebello, who at this point
Yes.
we get a sense that he is a very, very, very important VIP that Chef Veev is pissed that he did not get his table.
Yeah, he was like the one she was like the whole night was about him.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was the couple who paid $500 for the table but was starving.
Yes,
So
yeah. Starving
they were also unhappy.
Starving for food, which, as we learned from covering The Bear and watching this episode of Elsbeth, the food these people get are like this big on the plate, like just teeny tiny bits of food. You spend all this money, you wait all this time for just this little tiny piece of food.
It's like just a little bite, a
You spend
little
like
nibble.
$300 for like this little itty bitty piece of food. So that's what they're starving for. That they gotta get in and see.
At the end of the night, after like being completely mad at everyone, she sends Chef Eve sends everyone home, but tells Malcolm before he leaves to put some duck in the oven and start the timer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when she walks down and catches Jordan basically in the act. She has created an account where she can like buy this reservation, and she makes her purchase and then hears it on Jordan's phone, and so therefore she's caught him red-handed. Then there's this whole scene of like him getting beat with a meat tenderizer, running by a bunch of knives. Like, I had no idea where this was going, but
It's like the quote unquote fight choreography of this scene was so fun because it's just like it's Pamela Adlon just beating the crap out of this guy, like so comically almost. Like she's hitting him with the meat tenderizer, and I was like, oh wow, she's about to kill this guy with the meat tenderizer.
with a meat tenderizer.
It's just like he pretty much shakes that off. He's just like, ha ha ha, I got you on camera beating me up with a meat tenderizer, and then it goes from there.
Yeah, and I think that was the sin, right? Like it wasn't necessarily that he did all of these things. It was like she just was going to beat him up originally.
Yeah, she's going to beat him up, fire him, and send him home. But no, he was just like, no, I got you on camera. So then she's got to take matters to her own hands after that because that's her reputation right there.
Because
that video gets out, she's ruined.
That's it. So she decides to put some gloves on and strangle him. Like this was the solution.
Wait a minute, it's like you have a whole kitchen full of killing implements.
There's like running by all these knives,
and she strangled him. She strangled him to death. Which I like, as we hear later in the episode, like there's a lot of punch to this little pint-sized Pamela Adlon because she should not be strong enough to strangle this man, but she does. She strangles him dead.
Yeah.
And she tries to cover up her tracks as best she can, but as she's like trying to delete the video, which again, I have to call out the inner workings of a production team of like, how should we best display the stuff on the screen? Or it's like delete video, big block letters, like delete. Like that's not what any phone does, but okay, sure. But she decides she has to take her glove off to delete the video. It's like, okay, that's not very smart. She does wash the meat tenderizer in the dishwasher, and
after she beats herself up with it and throws herself.
She almost from a cartoon, like beats herself in the head with it. I was like, okay, interesting way they decided to depict that. She's basically just like whack, 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 and as she is walking around dazed, gets rid of the just. I don't know what her thought was. Like she takes the gloves off. She's like, I'll just put them very far down in the trash can. No one will ever find that. That'll be fun. And yeah, and washes the meat tenderizer, and then yeah, throws herself down a flight of steps.
Yeah,
I guess
like
to knock
does
herself out.
everything.
Yeah,
And like stays there all night. Like the next time we see her, she's being woken up by Kaya and Elsbeth, and we're led to believe that she like blacked out and stayed there like the whole night.
yeah.
But this, I gotta tell you, like I knew how this case was going to be solved just by the situation, which isn't something that normally happens with Elsbeth. Like I don't know how Elsbeth's going to find the clues. Like we see the clues, but I don't know how she's. I'm like, there are fingerprints on the phone.
Right. Yeah.
She had duck in the oven. Like there, like
I
there
didn't clock the
are.
duck in the oven piece. I did notice when she took the gloves off and like pressed her fingerprints on the video on the phone. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, like that's gonna be some very incriminating evidence.
Yeah, I'm like, this is it was just a little to me that's where it was a little sloppy on the Elsbeth writing team
Mhm.
because I was like, I know how this is gonna not that I didn't know when we saw the whole crime from the beginning, but there was fun in watching Elsbeth find something new or
Yeah.
find some sort of connection.
Yeah.
And this was pretty
Yeah,
straightforward.
I think that's the fun of Elsbeth, right? It's just like figuring out how Elsbeth is gonna figure out who was the
Right.
murderer. And we've talked about sixth sense, Elsbeth's sense all the time, where she can just kind of she just knows who the murderer is as she comes on the scene without any real evidence. It's just her gut feeling of who the
Right.
murderer is. And that really was kind of in play in this episode because she like almost immediately clocks that Chef Eve is the murderer. And it's about finding that out and the fun ways that we're going to find it out.
Yeah. So Kaya and Elsbeth are on the scene, and so is you summoned her here from last week, Jason. Detective Edwards, Miss Data Detective, is on the scene as well.
Yeah, listen, it's a rotation, right? So we had to get her, in. But I mean, we did get a nice cameo from some of the other detectives in
Yeah,
this episode. But
yeah.
again, I forgot her name, so I was calling her Detective Techie in my notes. It's like Detective Techie says this, Detective Techie does that. Because I don't honestly don't remember her name being even uttered in this episode at all. But good on you for remembering she was Detective Edwards.
No, she like that's like the only she says it. She's like, and I'm Detective Edwards. I was like, oh, I gotta write
Oh,
that
okay,
down because they're
gotcha.
never gonna say it again.
Yeah, I must have missed that. But yeah, she was Detective Techie in all my notes. But yeah,
That's a good one.
she had to be summoned again because I think she is the last on our rotation list of detectives.
Yeah.
It's only
So she's
fair.
on the
It's only
case.
fair, right? It's only fair that all our detectives get at least a turn before
Yes.
we can't have two
Before
Smullins before we get one Detective Edwards. They all got to take their turn.
no favorites.
Yeah.
No favorites. So Chef Eve decides she's or refuses to go to the doctor because the restaurant must open. It must open because Jordan died a hero and she's worked with concussions before. And of course, there's no cameras. Like she's answering all these questions. She's like, yeah, leave me alone. I'll give you an hour for interviews. And then what this whole time, Elspeth's like, do you smell that? It smells so good. Oh yeah, what is it? And then they find out there was duck in the oven.
Mhm.
So Chef Vive is very determined to keep going in. And she also is like trying to sell this to the staff as like, we were attacked and Jordan saved me and he died a hero. And so everyone's kind of like, okay about this.
She
Yeah.
she
What did you think of her trying to manipulate the situation?
Yeah, she wants the show to go on, of course. It is very Chef Carmy. Like I feel if Carmy was like stabbed in the gut, he would still be trying to finish service
Well,
before he got any medical attention.
spoilers for season 1, episode 7. There was a stabbing by Richie got stabbed in the butt.
I'm very upset that you knew the exact episode that happened in. Like without any looking up, you're like, "Oh, season 1, episode 7 of The Bear that actually happened." So like,
It actually did. It
yeah,
actually did.
but I mean, yeah. So the show must go on. I do, at least she's trying to make Jordan a hero in his death, right? Like,
Yeah.
give Chef
Well,
Eve that.
yeah. Well, and Jordan was disgruntled because he's been working there, had like a lot of good ideas, hadn't been moved up. So she's like feeling guilt,
I
I guess,
guess.
and trying to make him be a hero at this point.
I love when she was like beating him to death. He was like, he's like, I've been here for months and you never promoted me. She's like, oh, because your big idea of mango, what was it, mango salad or something
Mango
was
salsa.
mango salsa was such a big would have been such a big hit. I love that little the dressing down she's giving him right before she beat his ass.
Yeah, so this is now the police are gonna question everyone. So Malcolm talks about when he puts the duck in, everyone's talking about the night, how there were a bunch of people who were upset because they didn't get their table, but Chef Eve was calm the entire time. And then the maitre d', like the guy at the front, who is played by Jack Davenport.
Yeah, it was interesting because I recognized this guy immediately. I was like, I don't remember what I recognize him from, but I know I should recognize him from something. And yeah, it turns out he was in let me look at my notes again. Sorry.
Smash, I think.
Oh yes, he was the writer in Smash, right? Because you had Deborah Messing and the guy who actually is playing our big bad on Elsbeth this season. They were the two in
Yep.
Smash, and there's the writer guy who would always be having affairs with all the performers. That was this guy. So I was very surprised that he was like barely even a part of this episode. I was like, okay, like he's not a nobody, but he was just really
Right.
just a very very supporting role in in
He
this episode.
was a drunk maitre d'
Yeah.
who who knew Chef Eve, worked with her for like 20 years, and tells the police like she doesn't get along with many people, but she's a changed woman. She went to anger management, all this stuff. And now it's time for Chef Eve to be questioned. She tells her story, which is a lot different than what we saw as the audience.
Mhm.
She talks about how there was a knock at the door and she thought it was a delivery because Jordan would actually stay overnight at the restaurant to get early morning deliveries. So she went to the door to get it, and then she was attacked by the avocado cartels.
Mhm.
Like, I was like, which would explain why she threw the avocados on the floor when she was
Yes,
trying to
yes.
like beat herself up. But I did not know. I don't know. Have you heard of the avocado cartel?
No, I have not heard of the Avocado Cartel. I thought it was a fun little wrinkle that they put into this episode, like talking about the Avocado Cartel, and then we get the Fruit Task Force later.
Yeah.
I thought that was very fun, and when they go and like talk to Wagner about this, Wagner knows all about it. He's like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
Avocado Cartel. You don't want to mess with those guys. They're basically like a drug cartel has gotten to the avocado game and are forcing restaurants to buy their avocados." I was like, that is actually pretty hilarious.
That's like something that would be like in a comic book, right?
Mhm.
Like some
Yeah.
sort of like there's they're making me buy your avocados. And I love that whole scene because it was very like they're like, we should talk to the OC, that's organized crime, about like trying to explain all of these acronyms to Elsbeth. And Wagner was just like, I'm going to be the mansplainer in this situation. I'm
Mhm.
going to tell her what's going on. It was very funny. But apparently, there's been 8 chefs attacked by the avocado
Yes,
cartel.
you don't want to mess with the
And
avocado. No, they will. They probably have survived because the big thing a while ago was when you try to cut the pits out of avocados is like slicing your hand or whatever. Like they're probably like are some tough guys. They probably sliced their hands many times. They still live to tell the tale. They're tough people. So you don't want to mess with the avocado cartel. They'll cut you up. I guess I don't. It was so funny. It was like Wagner, who is knows everything. So, oh yeah. Yeah, you don't want to mess the avocado boys. Like is what they call them, the avocado boys. And he assigns Edwards to look into the avocado Don, and was like, okay, this is actually pretty hilarious.
it's pretty funny. And the whole time, Elsbeth, of course, is like, but what about Chef Veev? I think
Of
it
course.
might have something to do with her. And Edwards and Wagner tell her not to victim blame, which comes into play later in this episode. Like it causes Elsbeth to think about herself a little bit, which we'll get into. But yes, Edwards goes off to investigate the avocado Don on the dark web. Like she's gonna figure this out
I
on
got
the
my
dark
sources
web.
on the dark web. Like, okay, we get it. You're the tech person. We understand.
Well, and that's the only web that tech people can be on. They can only be on the dark web. They can't be on the other web.
Like, hit me on the light
Like,
web. Like, what if
yeah,
there's just
no.
a web that was like no bad stuff, right? Like just fun light stuff, pictures of kitties,
You
pictures
know
of
what that
puppies.
was? That was that was the early 2000s, late 90s internet.
Yeah,
That
this
was
fun
that
stuff.
was the time.
Yeah,
The
now
dial-up
it
days.
feels like the regular web is the dark web. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Now it's
that
a little
was
different.
like early Twitter was the light web, where you just shared fun cat and
Yes.
dog videos. Now everything's dark web.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Kaya and Elsbeth are having like little conversations of like, did you not like the muffins that I left out this morning, Kaya?
Yeah,
And it's just like with like Lena on it. Like they're having some roommate issues
the
a
show
little bit.
invested no time into getting into the roommate shenanigans of it all. Like they just became roommates last episode. We're already doing a episode about their differences as roommates. The Bert and Ernie of it all, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, you didn't like the muffins I left on the table? Like all the roommate stuff they're getting into, which is fun. But we're already kind of it, at the end of this episode. It already feels like we've beaten this dead
Yeah.
horse.
I was like, oh, she's gonna move. She's gonna move
Yeah, like
already.
it
Like,
just
I don't
it
know.
only took one episode, but whatever.
Well, and they are not like being little like they're not being very secretive about this. Lieutenant
Mhm.
Connor is hearing all of the things and his ears are perking up. So, he's on his investigation to find he's on oh no, the Department of Efficiency. He's definitely on that team. So he's keeping an ear out to hear what they're saying. Meanwhile, Elizabeth is trying to get a reservation at Veev and she cannot do it. The restaurant is booked. It's not booked. Chef Eve is just telling her not, or telling the maitre d' like, don't do it. Don't
Yeah,
let this woman into my restaurant again.
because he recognizes the name and just like, don't do it. I was very surprised that Chef Vive did have reservations open that night. I'm like, if Chef Vive is like is the if Restaurant Vive, whatever the restaurant's called, is so like fancy smancy, they shouldn't have reservations that night, right? They should already be booked up many months in advance.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't get a reservation at the Bear until like 3 months out. So like, you know,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Wagner at the same time is throwing a poker party. He's still on his I'm fun tour.
yeah.
He's still trying to get morale up there and he's very concerned because Lieutenant Connor had to put another sign up sheet, like add sheets to his sign up to have people talk to him. Smolin talks like this is not good for morale.
So many
And
people are
Elsbeth's
snitching. We got a
like,
bunch of snitches out
yeah.
there.
Yeah. Elsbeth looking around as Edwards finds someone on the dark web. Just like, it doesn't look that bad to me. But Wagner's solution to this is let's have a poker party, which I thought was fun. It
Yeah, I
was
love
very like dad energy.
yeah, I loved
He's
how
like,
like he didn't want Ellsworth to show up at first.
yeah,
He's
it's
like,
for the
no, it's
detectives.
for the detectives. Like he's trying to like pull the paper away from her, but of course Ellsworth can't help herself but to try and get involved because Ellsworth is just a very fun rose person. She wants to be a part of all the reindeer games, but I feel like it's got to be annoying to all the other people in the department of like because I think Wagner probably is like, all right, I spent a lot of time with Elsbeth and Kaya. Like, let me spend some time with the other detectives. No, Elsbeth has to just run in and make herself a part of it. But yeah, I like poor Wagner. He's begrudgingly trying to be a more fun person.
He's really going outside his comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's trying. So Edward's lead on the dark web takes Elsbeth and Edwards to a market in the city, and Elsbeth is doing her best undercover. I have to say that's the best that she can do, like
Which
which is not very good.
make yourself stand out so spectacularly with like a sparkly pink coat with
Yeah.
with the like the collar raised up and like a pink hat. Like she's trying to I don't know not stand out while standing out very spectacularly, moving around her herky jerky Elsbeth way as she does. It was very fun and very fun as Edwards, who's like plainly dressed, just like you're really just like trying kind of blowing up my spot here. Like, can you not be your weird Ellsworth self right now?
She's like, I gotta leave that Avocado Don is here, is in the corner, like back corner of the market. I'm gonna go do that. Elspeth's like, what can I do? She's like, I don't know, hide in a corner, count to 10, like get out of here, like don't do it.
It's like count to 100, count to 1,000, whatever you got to do. Like Elspeth was trying to be undercover. She didn't have any tote bags on her at that moment. Like,
Right?
she was
Yeah.
not trying to call attention to herself in her
That's what
Ellsworth
I'm
way.
saying.
Yeah, she was
Yeah,
trying to be
she
as
was undercover
stealthy.
for her.
Yeah, she's being as stealthy as an Ellsworth can be.
Yes, yeah. And while Elsbeth is looking around, she notices that some people have earpieces in, and this is when someone comes by and basically like kidnaps her and takes her to a surveillance point where we learn that the FBI is already on the Avocado Dawn case. Like
the fruit,
they have been.
Yeah, the fruit task force is on the case. It's like, yeah, we're part of the fruit task force. Like, so funny. Oh my god.
I bet you there is a fruit task force. Like, I bet you there is.
I don't know if they call themselves a fruit task force. I'm sure there's some other more official name.
Agricultural something or other.
Yeah, pharmacological or agricultural studies task force or whatever. Not the fruit task force. But I'm sure there is
that's
like
true.
a arm of law enforcement that looks into fruit crimes.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, listen, we've been tailing this guy forever. We know exactly where he was. He was not at the restaurant last night. It's not Avocado Down. You almost blew our cover. This has been like a months-long investigation.
I wish
It
I
wasn't
really
our Avocado Cartel.
I wish you would have taken this a little further and like actually busted the Avocado Dawn at that market just to see who or what they would have casted the Avocado Dawn to be. Just like
Yeah, I know.
just see the Avocado Dawn in person would have been a fun little twist. Like maybe bust him at that farmer's market just to see what that character would be.
Yeah, I was kind of like, I was like, oh, like, what if it was Nathan Lane? Like he
That'd
left
be
out. Oh,
hilarious.
he's in jail, but
He's a joke. But yeah, just to I don't know, maybe we can revisit the Avocado Boys later down
I
the
hope it
line.
shows back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun. It's like the avocados again. Back at the house, Kaya is dutifully studying. However, Elsbeth is Elsbething and making all of the noise, doing all the things, trying to get a reservation, asks Kaya if she wants to go. She's like, no, I really should stay home and study. So she calls Nadine from last season.
Yeah, and I really, really love this little twist in procedural, right? Because a lot of procedurals, well, I mean, I don't know. A lot of procedurals don't do this. Don't really call back characters, but this is like at least the second or third time we've called back a character from last season to visit with us this season. It's like that's a really fun aspect of the show. I mean, listen, that is a big part of the King's playbook is to have these kind of recurring characters pop in and out. But this Ellsworth just feels like a very, very, very procedural show. I think it's kind of rare to have these recurring guest stars to just pop up when we need them.
Yeah, and of course we remember Nadine being played by Laura Benanti, and we know her from all of the things. Like she's everywhere.
Just showbiz, right? Like,
yeah.
If you don't, I can definitely see you not ever seeing a Laura Benanti project and just knowing who Laura Benanti is. And yeah, we actually got an email from Alicia Ramsey, who was one of our listeners, viewers, who reminded us that Laura Benanti actually is a part of the Good Wife universe already. She played it. If you know the Good Wife lore, you know about Colin Sweeney. Laura Benanti was actually has shown up in the Good Wife as one of Colin Sweeney's wives in that Good Wife show. Now we have not stumbled upon her yet in our Good Wife journey. We haven't gotten that far yet in the Colin Sweeney, if you will, to bump into Laura Benanti yet. But yeah, she was a part of the Good Wife universe, which again, it feels like an every week occurrence now. We're finding someone that was in that Good Wife universe, just not as that Good Wife character. So,
which is cool, but also is a little disappointing because one of the things we talked about is like wanting to see characters from the Good Wife come into this world, which is kind of hard to do. Chicago, New York, like I get it, but I think it's just showing that they like their people and they're willing to put the people in new places, which is great. I'm not going to complain about having Laura on the screen. Like,
I mean, yes, exactly. And like we talked about last episode, like I don't think we're going to see a Dylan Baker come in as a different character. Like I don't think they'll go that far because we do have to remember this is part of one universe. But I don't think it's terrible to get someone that was only like, I don't know, 2 to 4 episodes as as a different person. I'm totally okay with that as long as you don't have like I said, Dylan Baker or a Mike Coulter come in as a different character. I'm all good with it.
Yeah, we'll have to keep watching to see who else shows up. But yes, Nadine was in last season. She was like slated to be a killer, but then she wasn't a killer.
Yeah, it was like she was a suspect. It was one of those rare Ellsworth episodes where like, who exactly was the killer? We don't know yet. But then we found out it wasn't Laura Benanti. It wasn't Nadine. So yeah, I love the little cameo here by Nadine. And Laura Benanti knocked this out.
So good.
She killed this.
So good.
Really, she did so great in this little cameo she had.
Nadine is a model, and so of course She's there. She's looking great. I love how when she gets there, Chef Eve knows her. Like, obviously, she's well known in the city.
Mhm.
And then Elsbeth does her trademark, like sticking out from the side. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Like, I'm also here. And Elsbeth continues to have like a typical conversation that she would have with a suspected killer of like, oh, isn't it interesting that like we found out that the Avocado Cartel wasn't even around that night? Like, isn't that interesting? And you could see like Chef Eve be like, okay.
Mhm.
And talking about how chefs can have like really hot tempers and things like that. And Chef Aviv is trying to remind, or at least plants in Elsbeth minds, but women can't get away with that behavior. Like,
Right.
be a girl's girl here. Like, we're talking about men chefs that have these type of behaviors. And we learned that Chef Aviv went to a very famous school, had a very mean chef. So we learn a little bit about that. They talk about the black market for tables. This is where what Nadine brings into the conversation. She is aware of the fact that people can buy different reservations online. And the whole time, though, she was like, I want to talk about how she couldn't eat.
Yeah, and the way she ate, like, and when she did eat, she, like, pulled her hair back to, like,
Yeah.
to eat. So good. And then as she talking about, like, as, Chef V was talking about, like, rival chefs, Nadine, like,
Yes.
leans over to Elsa, she's like, "I had a rival model trip me in Milan one season, but I'm not gonna tell you who it is. I'll tell you in the car." Like, it's so funny. It's so good.
It was so good. And so after finding out about the black market for tables and explaining how it works, Elsbeth, of course, is going to go look at the book. This is where Sam is drinking it up, the maitre
Mhm.
d', like just drinking things up. And Elsbeth is taking note of things like the book stays here overnight, right? And there's different handwriting on this one reservation. And the whole time Viva is like giving Sam
Giving
the
the
eyes, like,
eyes.
what are you do? What are you doing?
Yeah, sounds like drinking his wine. He's like, I know every name in this book. I'm the only one that writes in this book. And Ellsworth's like, what about this different handwriting? He's like, oh, that's weird. That's where Ellsworth goes, yeah, well, it stays there overnight. So anyone here overnight would have access to it and be able to write in it without you noticing.
Right, Sam? Oh, yeah. Well,
I
get
know.
to the bathroom, lady. Like, and Elspeth comes back and like talks to Chef Eve about it again, letting Chef Eve know like I am on to you. I know something's not adding up here. After she's had this like multiple course tasting meal, to your point earlier, Jason, Elsbeth arrives at the poker party still hungry. Like she
And
is
can we talk about the fact that this little meal that Elsbeth and Nadine had came out to over $900?
the best. The best was like Nadine was like, "Oh, I'd pay my portion, but I can't fit my wallet in my purse."
And my little like a little itty bitty purse. This is like the weirdest sight gag you've ever seen. Where it's just like it was like a Polly Pocket purse. It's just like I can't fit my wallet. My little itty bitty purse. Like it was literally like 2 inches big. She's like I can't fit it in my little itty bitty purse. So yeah, Elsbeth had to foot the bill for this $900 bill, which
Oh,
we know Elsbeth is loaded. So
no, she probably, I mean, I don't know, but she could expense it.
yeah, she definitely expensive. Like I wasn't surprised where if I wouldn't be surprised if she came in and like gave Wagner the bill. I was like, by the way, what the expense this to the department. So
Don't let
have fun with that.
Lieutenant Connor see. Like,
Yeah,
that's going to be a red flag for
for
him.
real, yeah.
What did you think of this poker party? Elsbeth arrives. She's still hungry. We find all these other detectives around the table. What was your take?
I was surprised that we only had our rotating cast of detectives. We'll get a different poker party later, but at the moment, I was like, this is all he could get. Like, I just wondered if this. They didn't really talk about it a lot, but I was like, is this considered like a failure on Wagner's part, where he couldn't get more of his detectives to show up to this poker game, except for our usual three or three, and Smullen, for whatever reason, the actor probably wasn't available. Smullen could not find his way to the poker party either. It was just
Well, or because he told and now he's snitched and maybe he's turning.
maybe, who knows? But yeah, we had Connolly there, we had Buzz there, and we of course we had Detective Edwards there, and then Ellsworth shows up, of course. So yeah, that was pretty low turnout for this poker game. I was surprised we didn't get more of Wagner being like, disappointed that there was only like a few people that showed up.
Yeah, I think also he might have been a little comforted that he didn't have to entertain that many
Yeah.
people.
I
Like
was
he's
also
like, I
surprised.
could do this.
Yeah, I was also surprised we didn't get a appearance from his wife, who I would imagine she would be
Mm.
someone that was spearheaded this and was like being a very much of a doing her hostess thing while the party was going on. Like, because it seems like she's the one that has really driven this whole. You gotta be more fun, Wagner. You gotta be a lot more fun. I was all surprised to see her either.
At least like come by with like
A
or say
tray of
hi, like
whatever.
out the
Yeah.
door or
Yeah.
like something like that. At the conversation at the table does lead Edwards to share that she found Jordan on Inside Table, which was, the dark web of it all.
Yeah.
And I loved Buzz's commentary. Well, it's got to be about money.
It's like his catchphrase. Everyone is like, it's got to be sex or money.
Yeah.
We get it.
We get it. We get it. They also learn that Mr. Montebello, is a hotel millionaire looking for a new restaurant. So this gives a little bit more color to this, why Chef Aviv, like a motive in terms of what she would have had against Jordan. So they decide to talk to Jordan's girlfriend, and we find out that Jordan was going to start a food truck. And like everyone does. And he's been working there for 2 months. Jordan double booked reservations that were already booked, and he was ready to leave. So he was like not like concerned about the consequences.
Yeah, it seemed like
he was all about it.
Yeah, it seemed like his double booking was his big send off to get himself a bunch of money so he could basically just quit the next day, I guess. So yeah, he wanted to get his big bag of money and run out.
Yeah.
I like that. I forgot it was mentioned that, like, she makes Gordon Ramsay look like Ted Lasso. I was like, that's a lot of like very references there. Gordon
Yeah.
Ramsay, who, I'm a big watcher of. I'm a big Ramsay guy. I watch a lot of his shows. I watch the Hell's Kitchen. I watch MasterChef. Gordon Ramsay, compared to the Gordon, he's kind of like Chef Aviv, it gets mentioned earlier in the episode that, you think Chef Aviv is bad now? You should have seen her 20 years ago
Yeah.
before she took anger
Yeah.
management classes. That really reminds me of Gordon Ramsay, because Gordon Ramsay of today is very soft compared to the Gordon Ramsay who was calling people idiot sandwiches and donkeys and Muppets, So, like, as I watched the Hell's Kitchen of today, it's like, all right, he's not as bad as he used to be. He yells for sure. He still throws, salmon at the wall when he doesn't like someone's salmon, but it's very very a lot softer Gordon Ramsay. So I feel like it was almost like Chef Aviv was almost like kind of like a Carmi, also like a Gordon Ramsay-ish person. It's kind of a commentary overall on pop culture chefs that we've seen in our pop culture scene of the last 20 years.
Yeah, I think that's Gordon Ramsay's a good call out. He just posted this one TikTok where it's like, it was just a picture of like a chef's table, and it said, stop. I think we should stop calling Gordon Ramsay an idiot sandwich and like all this stuff. He's not that bad. And then it flips and the camera is him, and he's like, oh.
Oh yeah, that isn't that a big thing now? I keep seeing those
It's a big
videos.
thing right now. Yeah, he did the trend, and I thought it was funny.
It's almost as
But
bad.
yeah,
As,
I mean,
it's almost as bad as the people running now. Of like, suspect is this.
suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, whatever brings people joy. I'm gonna hype up the joy. So we learned that Veev was like super mad about Montebello missing his reservation, and Kaya thinks that like a piece is missing. This is after a conversation where Edwards is like, I don't believe it's Chef Veev. You have to give me like more evidence, Elsbeth. Like, give me something, and I will help you out.
Yeah, I do like at this point, just like pretty much all the detectives know the deal with Ellsworth at this point. She's like, listen, I'm not going to tell you to stop because I know telling you to stop is not going to do anything. So you go right ahead. Do what you're going to do.
Yeah, she's definitely got Elsbeth's card. Like she knows how to play her now. This is when Lieutenant Connor, after again overhearing Elsbeth and Kaya talk about like what's for dinner, what's going on at home, Lieutenant Connor comes in and confronts Elsbeth and says, hey, like, what are you doing here? Is this a favor? I'm sure this is like going to be frowned upon. And Elsbeth is like pretty confident that it's not going to be, because thankfully Kaya wanted to sign a rental agreement and make sure that Kaya was paying rent. So she thinks she's in the green here, but Lieutenant Connor is definitely on this case for sure. Like this is his number one case.
Of course, Lieutenant Connor is who's just like the killer of all fun and good times.
Yes.
Like it's like, I'm sure that you looked up the true market value of this dwelling and you're charging her the requisite amount. I was just like, yeah, sure. Like we'll go with that for sure. He's like, okay, Connor, like, get out of here, bro. Get out of here. I'm waiting for. I'm sure by episode like 18 of this season, Connor will be just a bigger part of the Ellsworth nonsense than everything
Yeah.
else, but it's a journey to get there, folks. He's still going to be the stick in the mud of our show for now.
We got to get him to a poker party. We got to see what happens when he gets there. Elsbeth leaves the station and is picked up by a black car. And I did not expect for this person to be in the car, but it was none other than True Rose, who is divorcing Mark Van Ness, who we finally get something about this story that we were introduced to in the first episode. True Rose is played by Sierra Renee.
Who only
Jason, drop your nerd. Drop your nerd knowledge.
Only through my nerd knowledge did I recall this person. Like, oh my god, it's Hot Girl from the CW universe of superheroes. She's on all the Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
She's a part of that universe. I was like, that's the only real like big thing she's done. Because I looked her up afterwards. Just like, what does she do? What else does she do? That was her big thing. But I was like, oh, okay, I recognize this. I know who this person is. I understood that reference. So yeah, not a huge, actress here, but good.
But someone.
It was fun. It was a fun little check-in, I guess you could call it, on the Elsbeth whole plot. Because she really does a great job of putting the guilt trip on old Elsbeth here.
Yeah. I do not expect this from Elsbeth, like this behavior that she's like calling it out, but I could see it happening in the Good Wife world. Basically, True Rose is saying, look, I would not have married Mark Van Ness if I knew about what happened with his first wife. You did not believe his first wife when she told you everything that Mark does. And Mark he owns like a hockey team or something and put all of the fans on his first wife to like tear her apart online. Yeah. And she's like, I signed a prenup under false pretenses. I wouldn't have done this if I had this information prior to that. I need your help. And Elsbeth's like, my hands are tied. There's nothing I could do. And she is saying, you could help if you really wanted to. Now, okay, I'm going to do some writing for the show, Jason.
Yeah,
are you ready?
Please do. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. True Rose is a black woman and Elsbeth is a white woman.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Okay. So do we think this is the show's like tamed out? Like this might be the closest we get to the good fight or the good wife telling us something. But do you think this is a black woman telling a white woman, you could help me if you really wanted to? Like you didn't believe me. Or do you think I'm reading too much into the moment?
I think you're reading too much into the moment for sure. I just don't think race is going to play a big part into Elsbeth. I just don't think it's going to be there. I think just in general, I still think there's going to be the whole trope of like, we think our hero did something terrible, but at the end of the day, it's going to be like she had good reasons to do something that may have been not totally above board. I still think my money is on that. I don't think Elsbeth is going to be revealed to be this horrible person who covered up this thing for this guy. I think there's definitely more to the story. Yeah, I don't.
But that's the lesson, Jason. Like,
I don't think Elsbeth
that they're doing something good.
I don't think Elsbeth
is doing all this stuff, and it wasn't intentional. But then they end up being mean.
Yeah, I don't think Elsbeth is trying to teach us lessons about race. I don't think that's Elsbeth's thing. It's not a good wife, good fight show. It's more of a fun, light procedural. I don't think Elsbeth is going to go that route. But yeah, I think this is an interesting little check in with the story. Because we were begging for more information about the story. And we got a little bit more. Still want some more traction on this subplot.
Yeah. And it does cause Elsbeth to kind of like take stock of herself and like have a moment of self-reflection because the next time we see her, she's talking to Chef Aviv in the market and she's like, I want to apologize for treating you like a suspect when you're a survivor. Like I need to understand the environment that you came from where, I see all of your tattoos, and Chef Aviv explains that all of these tattoos are covering scars, either from accidents or not accidents. They talk a little bit about her mentor, Francois Deluc, who was the mean chef in France that was very formative to Chef Viv's life.
From our bear watching, the only thing I can ever picture now is Joel McHale dressing down Carmi in his restaurant from watching last season of The Bear. That's the only thing I can ever think of when she's talking about these scars that she has from her mentors. So that was
Jason, the trauma.
So no,
the trauma of The Bear.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Elsbeth asks Chef Eve about Mr. Montebello and is like, oh man, you must be like really upset that this didn't happen. Did it ruin the deal for you? And you could see like Chef Eve is like, you can see like the anger building up in her, but she says, don't worry, he's coming back. And Elspeth asks about the duck and cassoulet, like, because that's what Chef Eve is going to make for Montebello. She's like, oh, I'd love to learn how to make that. And that's when Chef Eve says, take my master or my maestro class.
Yeah, you want a lesson? You should buy my maestro class. Of course, it was I guess it's a ripoff of the Masterclass franchise where you can buy these super expensive video lessons from titans in their fields. Just like, yeah, buy a maestro class. I don't have time to give you a lesson about making this thing, which is a thing Ellsworth likes to do. She likes to disarm people by coming in like, oh, teach me a lesson so I can get closer to you, so I can understand how and why you did this crime.
Dancing.
Yeah.
Dancing.
Yeah, but Veev is not Veev is not falling for this. She's like, no, you want a lesson? Go buy my super expensive maestro class, which Elsbeth does just that.
She does. She's got 2 ducks. She brings everything to her apartment. She's got it all set up. Meanwhile, Kaya is trying to study. Like, this is not a good. And I mean, here's the thing. How big is this apartment? Because it seems like the only place for Kaya to study is next to the kitchen. I'm not saying that I totally get Kaya being annoyed that there's like all this noise and eventually a fire alarm going off. But I'm just like, this seems like a pretty, from the party that we saw there and all this stuff, it seems like that there might be other places to be studying.
Why are you studying in the living room or the dining room or whatever? Why don't you study in your room? Like, I don't know. Like, it just seemed like for the setup of the whole like roommates, you're distracting me, I can't do my stuff, because it seems like the only place she can study, but she just goes up to her room to study, which is like, why'd you just do that in the first place? But okay, whatever, maybe there's more room in the living room. But listen, it's a New York apartment, who knows how big it is. I've seen these videos about how small these New York apartments are for obscene amounts of rent, so who knows. But yeah, she does the whole like, you're distracting me by setting off your smoke alarms and all your noises in there.
She goes up the stairs.
Yeah, she huffs and puffs as she walks up the stairs. She's like, oh, I'm mad. Like, okay, we get it. You're roommates.
I did like that the show did 2 ducks later.
Yeah. 2 ducks later.
And at this point, like, Elsbeth is not being successful with the maestro class. She needs to find another way. That's when she remembers Francois Duluc. This is his dish. And so she just finds a YouTube video versus maestro class.
It probably costs like $300.
Yeah, like, okay. So she follows the YouTube video. She's successful in this route. She does learn about like timing is very important in this dish. It's very important. And Kaya comes back downstairs and she's upset that Elsbeth has used all of the time that she was going to use to make a focaccia in the morning. And classic roommates, like, oh, you should have asked, all of the stuff. Kaya needs peace and quiet for studying. And also Kaya found out that Lieutenant Connor knows. So there's some friction there. Montebello finally makes his way back to Restaurant Veev. Oh, go ahead.
That in this whole sequence, Elsbeth talks about following the steps exactly. And then she has her ding eureka moment. She's like, oh, I got
the duck.
Like, okay, there's something about the duck. And so, okay, now we're going to get into the end game of where Elsbeth has figured things out and she's going to confront the killer.
Well, the thing, and that's like a duh. For me, I was like, when they put the duck in the oven at the beginning, there is no way that duck would still be in the oven that many hours later without a fire or some sort of burnt smell or some sort, you know what I mean? Like, they weren't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I didn't pick up on it in the beginning. I was like, when we get the reveal here, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But I didn't pick up on it like you did.
Well, that's just, I've watched The Bear too many times. Okay, so Montebello arrives at the restaurant. Edwards finds this, and then of course, like, he's there, he's enjoying it. He's served the duck dish, the duck. It's not duck confit, and so
whatever that is.
Yeah. She's loving it.
I'm with Elsbeth. I'm with Elsbeth. He's like, a casserole. Like, that's what I would have said.
so good. I think we can make magic together. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. And then who shows up? But everybody shows up. So Edwards found out that Veev purchased the reservation. So obviously, Veev knew about the reservations before Jordan was killed. Elsbeth talks about how she had to have woken up to take care of the duck because she was following Chef Luke's, you know, recipe his own way. There's no way you would leave that duck in overnight, which is why she had bleach stains on her pants, which is something that Elsbeth had noticed at the beginning. And they finally catch the fact that Chef Yves' fingerprints were all over Jordan's phone.
So I'm like, when all this gets revealed, and like we get a bunch of timing, like you could have done this after 90 minutes without flipping the duck or whatever. I'm just like, okay, like it kind of lost me at that point. I was like, I get it. Because we saw after she had committed the crime and she laid down, we saw a timer go off, and her look like, oh, what we didn't see is her dragging herself
Right.
to flip the duck or turn off the duck, whatever she did to the duck. So we didn't see that part, in live action, but that's what Ellsworth is telling us happened. It's just like, okay, this all seems like, why did we do all this? Why did Ellsworth need to come and do this? I feel like Detective Edwards could have solved this case by herself without all the other Ellsworth
Yes.
shenanigans. Because when Detective Edwards comes in, she's like, all right, I figured out that you made the fake reservation to catch him in the act. I went through Jordan's phone and found your fingerprints on his phone.
That's enough. That's
So
enough. We don't need the duck.
yeah, we don't need the other duck stuff. We didn't need the other theatrics from Elsbeth, but it is what it is. I feel like there could have been better ways to solve this case, to have Ellsworth solve the case instead of like normal stuff.
That's where what I think I was trying to say at the beginning is like we didn't really need Elsbeth.
Right.
And this, like, there was no Elsbeth factor in here. She just was used as a vehicle to help us find out about the Avocado Cartel and other things.
Exactly.
So after that, it's another poker night. Kaya is coming into this one. She does tell Elsbeth, "You are right. I just needed a break from studying. Like, I'm not mad at you."
Yeah.
Okay.
All
whatever.
ends well, I guess. There were more people here at this poker night. More detectives that I guess we've never met or don't need to know. There are other random people there. But yeah, so the Elsbeth Kaya roommate fight really kind of just fell flat for me. I was just like, okay, kind of is what it is. Again, a lot went into this episode where I feel like the execution wasn't as good as it could have been. But still very fun moments inside the episode.
Yes. Like the end where Wagner and Elsbeth are going head to head on a poker call. And Wagner has reverse psychiatry or reverse psychology his way out of the situation.
And listen, I feel like Elsbeth, get her in the World Series of Poker, she's going to take everyone for all their money because, we got that Elsbeth sense where she can read people extremely well and probably knows when they're bluffing, do this and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get her around the World Series of Poker. She'll take everybody for all they're worth. Which all the other detectives are just like, they already know. There's like, oh no, if she's putting in a bunch of money, we are out. And of course, Detective Wagner's like, he double bluffs her. Finds out that she did have the hand that won the table.
Yeah, so she just gets richer.
Yeah, the rich get richer.
So yeah, hopefully we'll get a little bit more. I'd like to see the Elsbeth true rose of it all kick up a little bit. I'd like to learn more about what Lieutenant Connor is learning from the conversations that he's having with these detectives. Mm-hmm. And I'd like for Elsbeth to again be the secret sauce in terms of saving the day.
We're so used to Elsbeth outworking the other detectives, but it feels like the Detective Edwards actually did her job well in this one. I want to feel like all the other detectives are incompetent and they need Elsbeth to solve the case. Didn't really feel like that this episode.
Yeah. So we shall see. There will be a break in Elsbeth coverage as dictated by CBS, not by us. They are not releasing another episode until December 5th. So you won't hear from us until the following Saturday on Elsbeth, but you can always catch us talking about The Good Wife on this channel, network channel,
feed.
That's the word. It's like this aisle of podcasts.
This avenue? The street?
This place where we put things?
This area?
Every Monday, there is a Good Wife episode coming out for you there. So, and it's a good time if you want to get into the Good Wife. Go ahead,
Yeah,
catch up. We got podcasts for you.
we're just starting episode. We're starting season 2, so not too late to
Yeah.
jump in and dive in, see what we're talking about. We have a lot of compared if just in case there's those of you out there that didn't watch The Good Wife that want to watch The Good Wife. Good Wife is a very much more nuanced show than Ellsworth, right? Like
Yeah.
Ellsworth is very kind of straightforward, very procedurally. Good Wife is just like there's a lot to talk about in these Good Wife episodes. So
If you watch The Good Wife, my thinking around True Rose would make much more sense.
yes, very much so. That would definitely the writing you did for Ellsworth is definitely the writing that is in The Good Wife. Not so much for Elsbeth. But yes, it's a very kind of nuanced and complicated show that we love talking about it because again, it's also a show from 2009 and 10 that we're in right now. So it's fun to clock the different trends that we see. There's still things that are 2010 that were very relevant to today. And we talk about that as we go through the
Yeah.
Good Wife episodes. So we have a lot of fun over there. So check that out. If you want to get into the Good Wife game, if you haven't before, or if you have and want to rediscover your love for Good Wife, we got it all for you. So we have a lot of fun over
Yeah. Other than that, you can find me, Jason.
there. Yeah.
I see the sky. The sky is blue.
Yeah. I got on the blue ski.
Yeah.
So,
Are
I'm
you
there.
skeeting?
So
Are
that's my
are you
problem.
just
That's my problem, right? The Yin Yang twins told me explicitly what skeet means, and I can't call them skeets because
no, you
it's
can't call them
very different.
skeets.
I have a
It's
very
bad.
different knowledge of the word skeet than what y'all trying to tell me the skeet is on blue ski. Okay, I'm gonna call it blue ski because I refuse to call it blue sky because it's all one word. I'm calling it blue ski. So
Okay. Yeah.
you can check me out in my blue skis because I'm not going to call them skeets. 'Cause that's a problem for me. I'm on there. I'm at JR33D. J Reed was taken, so I was like, let me flip those E's backwards and make them threes.
Loved it. Loved it.
So yeah, I'm there. I haven't done a lot of blue skiing yet, so check me
I
out
like your
there.
skiing.
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of not a lot of blue skiings, not a lot of blue skis. Yeah, I haven't done a lot of blue skis at this point right now, but I'll be there. I'm checking it out. I'm seeing what it's like. I'm still over on Twitter for right now, and you can catch me there at JAYR1085. Blue ski is pretty much just like Twitter, except for
It
less bots,
it
I
was built
guess.
by the Twitter people. So
Yeah,
like after they sold it, they were like, okay, let's go make it again.
yeah, pretty
Like,
much.
let's go do it
Pretty much.
better.
Let's go rebirth it and it'll take another 2 years to get the same bots
I
and Russian agents
yeah.
over at Bluesky. So at least for now, we have a safer space
Well, I've been
to
sitting
congregate.
over on Bluesky just
Mhm.
waiting, like, because I'm a very early adopter person. I know this may shock you,
Oh, no, totally.
but while there are like anytime something new is announced, I'm like, oh, I'm going to sign up. Hence the I'm on Instagram and Threads
Mhm.
of it all. But I've been waiting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot I had an account. And then when everybody came over, I was like, oh, friends. So you can catch me over there as well and on Instagram and Threads at It's Me, Marissa G. You can see what I'm up to. Other than that, I am podcasting on Whirlwind. I forgot that we were releasing the season 2 of Pretty Little Liars or
Oh,
previous Little Liars, where we just watch the previously ons of Pretty Little Liars and talk about what we think is happening in the show.
okay.
So
Interesting.
that is going on over there if you are interested in if you enjoy when I write for the show, there's a lot of that happening over there because I have no choice.
Yeah. As far as me, I'm still talking about Married at First Sight over on the Rob Has Podcast Network on the Love at First Sight feed. Me and Asia Welch talking about Married at First Sight. If that's your jam, come on over. Even if it's not your jam, we have a lot of fun. So come check it out.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, what do you got to say, Jason?
Until next week, stay good.